Hi, and welcome to A Punk with Toys. My name is Lawrence, and in this classic review, we're now finally moving to Series 2 of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. And we're going to start off with one of my favorite figures of all time, and that is Airborne. And I'll be 100% honest, there aren't a lot of people that I know that didn't like this Airborne here. We're going to take a look at him, look at the his gun, his backpack, and obviously the design and everything that was put into him. Again, if you're new to the channel, you're just finding these and you're going, why would you go back and review a figure that is close to, 40 years old? Well, the reason is I have them. And as I was doing the classified videos and I would compare the figures, I started seeing a lot of detail that I never saw as a kid because I wasn't collecting. I wasn't some guy looking at all the detail. Yeah, you'd find the guns and the knives, but when you start looking at the detail and you realize the love that was actually put in to the sculpting of these by the designers and everything. So we're going to take a look at this, look at his backpack, like I said. And I'm so glad to finally be getting to Series 2. Wrapping up Series 1, a lot of those were just repaints. We saw, for the most part, that buck be used, just swapping it around. Where I believe in Series 2, they're almost all individual, right? We're not going to see the same stuff, and we're going to see new stuff. So I'm really excited to get into this. So anyway, let's not waste any more time because you've probably seen more of this face than you ever really wanted to. But if you like this type of stuff, you like G.I. Joe, you like looking at the O-ring stuff, take a second, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I drop a classic video like this. Alright, so here we got the figure out, and if you're new to the channel, I always like to start off with the accessories. So let's start off with this awesome, what I always thought was an M16, I'm not sure if it is. If you know exactly what weapon this is, please in the description, feel free to tell me. It has this awesome bayonet that I know many of us, if we had an extra one, especially the from the accessory pack, we'd cut the bayonet off so you'd have this short, stubby M16. And then you have a collapsible stock that is right here. Now, I never realized this is supposed to be collapsible. So in theory, this should go all the way down to there. It doesn't do it because, again, this is a very small and older weapon. But just looking at the detail, I think it looks good. Look, you got your safety switch right there. You got your magazine. There is no trigger or trigger guard, and that is fine because they don't have individual trigger fingers. You got your iron sight, and obviously you have your handle. And again, it looks really nice. I don't think there's too much to complain about. Here's where you can actually see that the bullet shells will actually eject from. So these are little things that I never noticed. All right. As for his backpack, this is something that got reused for sure, all right? So Duke, I know, also got this in the same series. You have a nice shovel here. Here you have his bedroll. And this is what many of us thought was the parachute. Again, this is not a parachute, but many of us thought it was. And like I said, people are going to say, I knew this. I didn't. And again, we were kids. We were playing G.I. Joe. You have all these nice little pouches throughout here, but I think the shovel and the bedroll, when I look back and the way that it's tied in, it's meant to look where it is. It's not just a solid state, right? It's actually meant to look like it's all wrinkled up and stuff. And I think they did a wonderful job. And that's something I pointed out in some of the other ones. But you can see, the detail on the shovel right there. So real nice looking there. And then we have the helmet. And this is the first time that we get a different style of helmet, right? Well, in this series. This is the first one we're going to look at. So he has these goggles here. Now, these are actual goggle covers. I did not realize that. I believe these are goggle covers that are supposed to go over it. Or maybe that's how they give it in the O-ring one. Actually, you know what? That's not goggle covers. Those are just the regular goggles. But the classified one, they give you like goggle covers. But anyway, you look at the straps here. It is clipped in there, so you don't have to worry about losing it. So he can just pull it right down over his eyes. And then he has some sort of cover over the actual helmet, all right? Probably a better way to camouflage it would be my guess. And you can see that it is the same design as the actual O-ring helmet. I actually never noticed, not the O-ring, but the Series 1 helmets. as there's the earpiece that's usually would have a hole there. They just don't have it on this, which I think is perfectly fine. I mean, there's no reason to complain about that. Okay, on to the actual figure. And like I said, I love this figure. Looking at the head, they still do the eyes the exact same way. You know, just a dot for the pupil, and then the top, you know, the top of the eye, they're doing the same color as the pupil, so it gives it a little bit of depth. Eyebrows there. The hair is very, I guess you could say very generic, but they do try and make it look like just strands of hair, so it is kind of ruffled up a little bit. And he's going to be wearing the helmet. I mean, this guy is very iconic to have that helmet on because it is such a unique helmet. Here we have what looks like a turtleneck, and you can see that nice detail through here. And then you have this somewhat blue teal jacket that he's wearing. All right, and then you have your bandolier style. You got your nice grenade here. You got your knife that is sheathed in here. But again, here we see the little straps that is meant to hold this in place so it's not moving around, especially when he's rappelling down like a rope or something like that. All right, you can see the clasps, all this detail, stuff that I never noticed. And then here, you would have buttons underneath here, and then either it's Velcroed over, maybe it just folds over, so it's going to hide those buttons. Got a couple little pockets right there. All right, here we can look at the belt, and there you have the belt buckle, and it is strapped around, and this is something I'm assuming is meant so when he was coming down, rappelling down, this is there to keep him strapped into position so he doesn't have to worry about actually falling off of it. All right, you got some little pouches on it. All right, here we have his sergeant stripes. All right, and you have different colors. Here we have the rivets that no one ever really complained about, that they were different color. I pointed that out before. Then you get down to the arms here, or the wrists, and you can see the detail that they put in there, where this is some sort of jacket or coat, or heavier shirt that just kind of cuffs around his hands. And I would assume that by looking at this, he is wearing actual gloves. A little bit of padding on the on your forearms. Again, probably all of this. Again, if you were a paratrooper, please, is it paratrooper? Let me know if this is something that was common. So if you're coming down those ropes, I'm assuming you don't want this wearing through it. I'm trying to think of how this would hit, but this is obviously meant to have a little bit more protection. Looking over here, you have this H-strap, and even back here, you have the buckles that are going to keep it in, and this is to simulate the backpack here actually being strapped onto him so it doesn't just float around. Some figures people had a really big issue with that they don't have it, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Here we have the pouches right on the side. He has a sidearm, okay, that is sitting right here. You can see the strap that actually goes right around there. It does not go all the way up here, so Bobby B will probably be upset. I'm just kidding. But even here, you just kind of look at that detail. You get down to the knee pads, and I always loved the knee pads that kind of protruded up. I always felt like they were maybe a little bit easier to get in like a kneeling position just because you had a little bit more, but I just like the aesthetic of it. And I don't know why. As a skateboarder, I hated wearing knee pads. You get down to the boots, and here's where I think we start to see actual what is supposed to be considered laces. All right, and looking at this here, you can see where it is. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. You can see how it's wrinkled in the boot here because it's not going to be perfect. All right, and they're not the exact same. And you see all these wrinkles throughout everything. Here we have the pocket. All right, tells you where it's made. All right, but you have the one pocket over here, two little buttons. And this is the series that we look at the buckle, and we've lost the Hasbro, right? There's no H, there's no house. This is now completely different. And when you look at that there, you can actually see how it's supposed to buckle in. That is a lot of detail for the 80s and also for a figure this small. But when you look at all the wrinkles throughout it, this is stuff that I never noticed. Again, I know a lot of people did. And that's great if you did, but I know that I didn't, and I know a lot of other people didn't either. Now, when you take this figure, we pop on the backpack, we pop on the helmet, and I think a lot of us tried to doing this to make it look like he was wearing the goggles. It didn't work. And then we have the his wonderful rifle with his awesome bayonet. And again, O-ring figures are not the greatest to pose without a stand. I don't have a problem using stands with figures this size, but you can get them on 1 foot if need be. Again, there's Airborne, and to this day, I still think that this is one of my all-time favorite O-ring figures. I know a lot of people were excited when it came out in classified, and I thought they did a really good job other than the gun, but again, that is classified. Hopefully, if they do a retro card, it'll be a little bit closer. So there you go. That is the actual in-hand review of our G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero Airborne. All right, so there you go. That is the classic review of the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero Airborne. And no, remember, that is not a parachute, although many of us thought it was. And many of us acted like it was because we were kids and we had an imagination. Now, I know in the comments there's going to be someone say, "I always knew that wasn't a parachute." Well, good for you. Most of us thought it was a parachute. And again, we were kids. This is G.I. Joe, let's be honest. Anyone could fly a Sky Striker. Anyone could fly a Dragonfly. Anyone could drive a Mobat and a Mauler. I don't think that's real. The military actually has, people that specialize in certain things. But anyway, that is my review. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Did you have this figure? Did you like this figure? Is it one that maybe was your first one? Did someone have it? Did you trade for them at school? We always traded for stuff at school, okay? If any parents are watching, I'm sorry, we did it. We traded for stuff. But anyway, tell me a little story if you have one. I'd love to hear it. But I'm going to get out of here. But please, don't go anywhere. You stayed this long. It helps the algorithm. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I drop this. Now you're going, wait a minute, this is Series 2. I totally missed Series 1. Well, you know what? I'm going to point you right to probably the biggest one that I've done, and that's going to be the Mobat right up here, and down here will be the playlist of all the classic reviews of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero that I've done. Take care.